My name is Nick. I am 50 years old. And the day my son looked me in the eye and said, "You're getting nothing from Mom's will," I believed him. I believed him because for 23 years, I had been the villain in my own family's story. But what happened in that lawyer's office changed everything. The call came on a Wednesday afternoon. I was fixing a leaking faucet in my small kitchen apartment when my phone buzzed. The screen showed a number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Nick Harrison," a woman's voice asked. "Yes. This is Carter and Wells Law Firm. We are calling regarding the estate of Mrs. Eleanor Harrison." My ex-wife. I hadn't heard her name spoken formally in years. Eleanor. To the world, she was Mrs. Harrison. To investors, she was a powerhouse. To magazines, she was a self-made millionaire. To me, she was the woman who once danced barefoot in our tiny living room when we couldn't afford furniture. "I'm sorry," the voice continued gently. "Mrs. Harrison passed away 3 days ago." The wrench slipped from my hand. Eleanor was dead. I hadn't seen her in 8 years. Our divorce had been ugly. Not because we hated each other. Because we had become strangers. When we married, we were broke. I was working construction. She had a small online business selling handmade jewelry. I supported her. I believed in her. I built her first workshop in our garage with my own hands. But success changes people, or maybe it reveals who they were all along. When her company exploded, so did the distance between us. Suddenly there were business trips, investors, private meetings, and eventually lawyers. Our son Daniel was 17 when we divorced, old enough to choose sides. He chose hers. I don't blame him. She had the house, the cars, the vacations. I had a rented apartment and overtime shifts. After the divorce, Eleanor's company became a global brand. By the time she died, her net worth was estimated at $34 million. $34 million. And I hadn't spoken to her in years. The lawyer scheduled the reading of the will for Friday morning. I wasn't even sure I was supposed to attend. But the secretary said, "You are named in the document." Named. That word echoed in my head all night. Friday morning, I wore my only suit. It was 10 years old and slightly tight at the shoulders. The law firm building was made of glass and steel. I felt out of place walking in. Daniel was already there. He looked older, sharper, expensive watch, tailored suit, his mother's confidence. He barely nodded at me. "I didn't expect you to come," he said. "I was told I'm named in the will." He let out a dry laugh. "Don't get your hopes up." The words stung more than they should have. We were led into a large conference room. Eleanor's business partner, her assistant, and 2 distant cousins were seated around the table. At the head sat Mr. Wells, the attorney. He adjusted his glasses. "Thank you all for coming." The room felt colder than it should have. Mr. Wells began listing charitable donations first, millions to foundations, scholarships in her name, community projects. Then he distributed assets to her company executives. Daniel sat straight, confident. Finally, Mr. Wells folded his hands. "To my beloved son, Daniel Harrison." Daniel's jaw tightened slightly. "I leave the primary residence, all personal vehicles, and a financial trust totaling $12 million. A quiet murmur passed through the room. Daniel's lips curved faintly. I felt relief. She had taken care of him. Then Mr. Wells turned a page. "To my former husband, Nicholas Harrison." Daniel actually chuckled. "You can skip that part," he said casually. "He's getting nothing." The room went silent. Mr. Wells looked up slowly. Then he laughed. Not loudly, not mockingly, but knowingly. "I assure you," he said, "we will not be skipping this part." Daniel's smile faded. Mr. Wells continued reading. To my former husband, Nicholas Harrison, the only man who ever believed in me before the world did, the only man who supported my dreams when they were still fragile. My throat tightened. I leave 30% of my personal estate. The words didn't register. 30% of 34 million. Daniel shot up from his chair. That's impossible. Mr. Wells calmly placed the document on the table. In addition, Mrs. Harrison included a handwritten letter that must be read aloud. My hands trembled. Mr. Wells unfolded the letter. Nick, if you are hearing this, then I ran out of time. I know we didn't end well. I know I let pride and ambition build walls between us. But you were the foundation of everything I built. When investors laughed at me, you didn't. When orders were slow, you stayed up helping me pack boxes. You built my first office with your own hands. You never asked for ownership. You never asked for credit. During the divorce, I was angry. I was stubborn. I convinced myself I did it alone. But success gave me clarity. You were my partner long before contracts and lawyers got involved. This isn't charity. This is fairness. You are receiving what you always deserved. And Daniel, if you're listening, remember this. Wealth doesn't begin when money appears. It begins when someone believes in you. Your father believed in me when I had nothing. Love, Eleanor. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Daniel stared at the table. I couldn't breathe. 30%. That meant over $10 million. I had spent years scraping by, fixing pipes, working overtime. And she had remembered. Not out of guilt, but out of recognition. Daniel finally spoke. This doesn't make sense. They were divorced. He didn't build the company. Mr. Wells met his eyes. Actually, Mrs. Harrison provided documentation of Mr. Harrison's early contributions, the garage renovation, the initial inventory purchases from a joint account, photographs, receipts. I had no idea she kept those. She considered him a silent partner in spirit, Mr. Wells added. Daniel looked at me differently. Not with anger, with something closer to confusion. Outside the building, Daniel stopped me. You knew, he asked. No. You didn't ask her for this. I haven't spoken to your mother in 8 years. He rubbed his temples. I told you you'd get nothing. I know. He hesitated. Why didn't you fight for more during the divorce? I looked at him carefully. Because I didn't marry your mother for money. The wind moved between us. For years, he said slowly, I thought you left because you couldn't handle her success. I swallowed. I left because your mother and I forgot how to be partners, not because she succeeded. He looked down. She used to say you were stubborn. She was right. For the first time in years, we both almost smiled. The money transferred 3 months later. $10.2 million. I paid off every debt. But something else weighed on me. Alina had given me recognition. Not revenge. Not guilt money. Recognition. And I realized something. If she believed I deserved 30%, then maybe I had been living too small. So I did something unexpected. I requested a meeting with Daniel. At a quiet cafe. He arrived late as usual. I've been thinking, I said. He stiffened slightly. I'm not here to argue about the will. He relaxed. I've decided to invest most of the money. In what? In a startup. He blinked. What kind? I leaned forward. A sustainable materials company, young founders, big ideas. He stared. You investing? I smiled. Your mother once needed someone to believe in her. Silence. Then I added, I want you involved. His eyebrows rose. Why? Because this time we build something together. He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. You share it with me. I'd rather share success than inherit it. For a long moment, he didn't speak. Then he nodded. Slowly. 2 years later, that startup tripled in value. Daniel and I worked side by side. We argued, we debated, we laughed. We learned each other again. One evening, while reviewing financial reports, Daniel said quietly, I misjudged you. I misjudged myself too, I admitted. How? I forgot that believing in someone is powerful. He nodded thoughtfully. Mom never told me those early stories. She didn't need to, I said. She left them where they mattered. He understood. On the 3rd anniversary of her death, we visited Alina's grave together. Daniel placed fresh white lilies. I used to think money proved strength, he said. And now, I think loyalty does. The wind moved softly through the trees. I looked at the name carved in stone. Alina Harrison. Brilliant, fearless, complicated. Your mother was many things, I said, but she wasn't unfair. Daniel gave a small smile. She laughed, didn't she, when I said you get nothing? I nodded. The lawyer did. He exhaled through his nose. She always did like proving people wrong. We stood there quietly. Not divided. Not competing. Just father and son. If you had told me 5 years ago that my ex-wife's will would repair my relationship with my son, I would have laughed. If you had told me I'd receive over $10 million from a woman who once slammed a door in my face, I would have called you crazy. But life isn't about what breaks. It's about what remains underneath. I didn't get rich because Alina felt guilty. I didn't get rich because of luck. I received something far greater than money. Validation, closure, and a second chance with my son.